Okay, so we start with Conrad's work, and in his first art assignment, he's met all the requirements, and I'd say this is an example of translation. In the second assignment, we do have formal balance, which was called for, and there looks like reflection. What a clever idea. This seems as though we're observing two doorways with shadowy silhouettes that are casting long shadows in the foreground. Okay, here's Nicholas' work, and he has really done a fine job of working with drafts, submitting his drafts early enough for me to review them, for all the class to see what he's done, and for the class to see my remarks too. Some of his classmates are doing the same. It's a great practice. Now, let's see. That first art assignment went through several versions, and here, this looks very good. The only thing I'd say that could be done to make it perfect is to nip off the bottom right edge of the first set and at the top left corner of that set, so that the two outer foursomes have the same nipped edges that the center foursome has. So what about his second assignment? That's really nice. There we see dilation. There was translation in the first. We can observe how that shape set in the center has been used around the edges at the corners of the squares. Let's see. One of my favorite elements there is that interesting square shape that's created by the insides of the stars toward the sun. There's a diamond shape made by the star's edges. Well, here we go, Kelly's work, and her first assignment. What a lovely solution. While there's overlap, she was able to control things so that each shape set really is the same. There's rotation there and translation. You know, when I look closely, I believe I'm seeing different sizes of empty negative space in the center of each set, which is suggesting that the set was not copied and pasted and rotated, and I recommend that. It can be more exacting that way. In Photoshop, edit, transform, rotate to spin one set, and you know how to copy. So looking at the second assignment, there we see dilation, and I suppose we could say translation too. And Kelly mentioned that her baby was ill when she was working on this, but I think she came up with a pretty nice solution anyhow. You might like to see the optical illusion that I posted for Kelly to see in the discussion. Looking at Zane's work here, he's been using the Illustrator Learning Center for tutoring services, and I recommend that to everybody. I've had students who've come a very long way. They've learned to do things that I don't even know how to do with Illustrator through working one-on-one with a tutor, for example. That's entirely free. You just need to sign up for it. Now, let's see. In this first assignment, I see that there are sets of 3 black circles with a sort of white circle in the center. And it's very fascinating to observe how where the circles overlap or where that white circle exists. It's almost as though suddenly, you know, the touching action is creating a kind of X-ray vision or a photographic negative effect. Pretty nice. With one of these files, I think it's probably the first art assignment, there was a file type problem. Make sure to save for web as a JPEG. Now, in the second assignment, we have a sort of whimsical formal design that employs some type. I enjoyed that. Okay, Casey. Hey, I like those rounded rectangles. Often I'm using them in my own designs. Let's see. I'm looking at the first art assignment, and you know, that seems to be a very good solution for the first part of it. But according to the directives, you need to have that repeat a couple more times at least. So I want you to reread that and study what was going on in the drafts review, because that will inform you. That'll show you how people give the work a first try, and then they need to go back and revise. What's up with that? What's going on? Is this possibly applicable to your work? I want you to look in drafts for answers to what you need to know to prime yourself about what's going on. Now, let's see. The formal design looks quite good. As always, I suggest using guides in the grid to line things up, but things do seem lined up pretty well. I'm going to refer you to the very top of the image here in the week 2 review, where there's information about how you can start with a high resolution file. Okay, so here we have Mike's work, and boy, it's pretty interesting. Taking a look at the first assignment, what do we have? Rotation, translation. You know, one thing here, if we're going to be sticklers, we might say because you reversed the colors, this maybe doesn't follow the directions precisely. But it's such a compelling design. I don't think I'd complain. Let's see. Now, when I look at your formal design composition, I'm thinking of the Gestalt theories of visual psychology. You know, I think that there are several things going there. We've got similar shapes. We've got an idea of continuation. We even have common fate. Nice work there, Mike. Well, here's Christina's work, and it looks quite good. Boy, I see reflection in both of these. In fact, the first assignment reflects in 2 directions. It took me a minute to find the sets of 4 circles that are the basic building block of that first design. I did find them, and all looks good. The only little tiny nitpicky thing I could say is that in instances where the foursome overlaps another group, we get an intersection area, which isn't common to all the sets. In other words, there's a little nip off the bottom of each of the bottom circles. Now, with a formal design, how nice you've built this from disparate components, and it's a very delicate design that uses type. Wow, Paul's first design has come a long way. How beautiful. It seems as though it stands in the center, and at the edges, at the ends, it's falling apart or spinning apart. You know, here I think we could say that we see a quality of, oh, let's see, common fate and proximity holding the design together. Now, in the formal design, there's certainly dilation and, golly, some sort of interesting progression of what look like origami shapes. Tiffany, very fine work. You know, I think that your first assignment is tripped up a little bit in the same way Casey's was. You know, the assignment is asking for 3 same size shapes, I believe, and then repeat that set at least 2 more times. So reread that and see what we're after, and use drafts to help yourself to info that'll work with your own assignment. Now, in the formal design, very nice. I can see that this is not copied and pasted. It's not an exact repeat, and I would like to work with you, or I suggest you work one-on-one with a tutor in the appropriate learning center. Debbie, what an interesting couple of works. You know, I love the mesmerizing quality and the cleanness of the first piece. As was mentioned with a couple other examples, where there are those additional areas of overlap, well, I think that bends the rules a little bit. Notice how the center set has edges nipped off because of the overlap. I do like your formal balance piece, and I think the Gestalt theory pertaining a good figure helps us to see a rectangle in the center of that.